The bride and the prince held a romantic wedding, with the groom cutting the bride's palm and then tightly clasping their hands together. As their blood mingled, the wedding ceremony came to an end. The prince carried the bride towards a stone bridge. Suddenly, the bride was thrown down by the prince, offered as a sacrifice to an evil dragon. After an unknown period of time, the girl slowly regained consciousness. She shouted loudly towards the opening above her head, only to awaken the sleeping dragon instead of receiving a response. It was then that the bride realized she had been married to the prince as part of a deal between their royal family and the dragon. Furious, she tore off her necklace and threw it away, then attempted to climb up the rock wall, only to fall heavily to the ground due to its smooth surface. It was then that she noticed the scattered ornaments around her, realizing she was not the first to be sacrificed to the dragon. At that moment, she saw a burst of firelight in the distance. A small bird engulfed in flames. Hastily, she tried to extinguish the flames on the bird's body with mud, but unfortunately, she couldn't save the bird's life. Bury the poor little bird. A strange sound suddenly came from ahead, followed by thousands of burning birds flying towards her, flapping and fluttering aimlessly like headless flies. The girl was so scared that she could only cower on the ground with her head covered, looking at the charred birds all around her. The girl had no idea what was happening. Just as she wondered, she heard a low growl behind her. Terrified, she dared not even breathe, and when she turned around, she saw a giant claw swipe across the rock. Startled, she turned and ran backwards, only to have the dragon breathe a stream of fire directly at her. In a desperate moment, the girl managed to escape into a cave, narrowly avoiding disaster, but her leg was unfortunately burned by the flames, causing her intense pain and agony. She took out a small knife from her pocket and used a piece of cloth from her clothes to bandage the wound. Afterwards, she found a water source, but the water had gone bad and was undrinkable. She had to tilt her head back and catch drops of water dripping from the icicles to quench her thirst. Suddenly, the icicles began to melt rapidly, but she reacted quickly, escaping into a narrow cave just in time to avoid being hit. Upon waking up, the girl found her leg covered with glowing insects. With a disgusted expression, she removed all the bugs, only to be amazed to find that the burns on her leg had miraculously healed. To confirm her suspicions, she placed the insects on her injured arm, and as expected, the wound began to rapidly heal before her eyes. This gave her a sudden glimmer of hope. Following the guidance of the map, she continued forward until she came upon an upward passage. However, the passage was surrounded by crystal ladders. Unsure of how to climb up, she noticed a crown nearby. She tore her clothes into strips, wrapped them around her hands and feet, and then used the crown to grip onto the crystals. Slowly climbing upwards, halfway up, her foot slipped, but fortunately, the crown caught onto the crystal, preventing her from falling. However, the crystals couldn't bear her weight and began to crack rapidly. Through relentless effort, she finally managed to climb to the top of the passage. Seeing the exit right in front of her, she excitedly walked towards it, only to find herself standing on the edge of a cliff. The hope that had just ignited within her was instantly shattered. As a colossal figure lunged towards the girl, the dragon noticed her and prepared to breathe fire to burn her alive. However, a man's voice sounded not far away, prompting her to quickly turn and evade the dragon. Returning to the cave in search of a way out, there, she discovered a mysterious place filled with gold, silver, and jewels, with 3 dragon corpses lying in the center. This reminded her of a long-standing legend. It turned out that 100 years ago, a king arrived here with his soldiers and found 3 newly hatched dragon hatchlings. The king ordered them all to be slain. Enraged, the dragon breathed fire, turning the soldiers to ashes. Upon the king's plea, the dragon spared the king's life, but demanded that he and his descendants offer sacrifices for generations, just to let the king taste the pain of losing loved ones.